And we're live. It is just after 8 p.m. Eastern on the East Coast. It is another time for Ascent Show. And I cannot wait for you guys tonight to see and learn from these amazing guests that I have. First, we're going to have in just a second Michelle Hoffmann come on. And Michelle has got the corporate story to entrepreneur journey that you'll love to hear. She's coming to us tonight from San Francisco. She's got decades of experience working in corporate, senior level executive management in the biotech space, financial space, and she's got an incredible story and tons of energy. So I'm going to bring Michelle in now, and we'll get going here. So, hi, Michelle.
Hello, James. Thanks so much for having me here. So happy to be talking to you and all the people listening to your show. So good. Let's talk about radical integrity.
Oh, all right. We're gonna flip the script. That's cool. I love it. Well, so it's great. Glad you brought it up because we were just talking in the green room before we got started here about our stories because they seem very similar. We both have a corporate story and we also have some personal loss that really those two things were really momentum to put us into what we do now. And, I wrote Radical Integrity because I believe that I was tired of the BS, that you couldn't be exactly who you were inside and outside of work, and that you can't build deeper or more authentic relationships in sales. And so I gave, maybe for the first time ever, a holistic approach to sales and leading people that doesn't change who you are when you go home.
Exactly. And
Yep.
that's what I've been coaching and teaching throughout my career.
Yep. Awesome. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So excited to have you here. So let's start from the beginning, right? So how many years were you in corporate?
Whoo.
Or do we not want to disclose that?
Right. That's okay. I'm not worried about that at all. I think I own all of that. So since the late 80s.
Awesome. So, oh man, we could go on a lot of tangents with this, but I mean, you saw the big 80s, 90s of corporate boom. You saw you saw the pre-internet boom. You saw the post-internet boom. You saw the digital transformation in the marketplace. In the 2000s. You've seen a lot of change in business, and it's actually perfect for what you do now.
Right. So that's exactly the right word to touch upon, and it's change. So when I graduated from university with marketing and business degrees and international economics from the Sorbonne in Paris, and I have all this wealth of information, and I'm like, okay, I am ready to keep learning. And that in and of itself was this novel concept. So I went into finance, and one of the first things that I did in finance was figure out how things worked. And then when the managers and the owners of the company were talking about, how can we be more customer centric? They weren't using that term at the time, but how can we reach more of the audience? And I'm like, I talk to these people all day long. You guys are the big game hunters. Can I go for the smaller game? And they were like, oh, you can't do that. And I said, look, I designed your presentation. I'll give it to you and demonstrate that. So I ultimately reached a whole new channel for them because the customers wanted the service and the products that they had available, but they just didn't know how to reach it. So I increased their client base by 200% in that. And boom, I've got the corner office and assistants and all of this. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. So then growing, and I'm, managing people. And it was so interesting to me how people would flock to me like magnets. They really wanted to work for me. And not only in the financial industry, but in biotech, in the medical world, in medical publishing, and then in academia at Stanford. People always wanted to work for me. And I was trying to figure out, what is this? Well, I really figured it out when I was working with a medical publishing company, and they asked me to transition the business from California to Pennsylvania. And I had already done presentations to the International Institute of Management and in change management specifically. This was a big, multifaceted change management project. I had to let go of a team that I had walked into and actually helped them that together we created a really robust department. And let's just talk about that for a second. So here's a group of people who were in this mundane job, and they would pick up the phone. So actually, sometimes pick up the phone in those days. It was this novel thing to have a headset. They would answer the phone and connect with the customers and place an order. So it was literally just an order processing department. And I'm like, but you all know the customers so well. Could we do some sales here? Because we're looking for ways to increase sales. Oh, no, we don't do sales. Okay. But these are your friends on the other end of the line, right? You know them by voice. Yeah. So and in this case, it was medical publishing of patient education material. And I said, if they want total knee replacement booklets, and you know that we have after total knee replacement booklets or tear sheets, would you consider just helping your friend out? Oh, sure. Cross-selling. And
what a concept.
Right. There's a discount if your friends get a certain amount. So would you just tell them that if they buy 10 more, they can get a discount? Well, yeah, I would do it for my friends. Okay, well, bam. We made an incremental difference of $1 million that year. Awesome. And I worked for the company 11 years. Every single year, it was an additional year over year, another $1 million every single year. And I knew how much it cost to run that department and that cost center. We were paying for ourselves in one business day.
Wow.
So here's a team
of awesome.
Who were so unsure of their skills.
Yep.
But when I look at people, just like you were saying, and listen to them with my heart and go, how are you going to make the difference? And when we align the goals with not only the individuals and what their career could be if we just enhance their skill set, but we align those values and those goals with the mission and the vision of the business, you don't get 80% from your employees. You get 180%. They are bought in.
Bingo.
And I recently got a message from a fellow I hired later on in this story at the same company. And he reached out to me like 4 or 5 months ago. And he said, Michelle, I just want to tell you thank you. Out of the blue, so cool. So totally do that. And he said, during our interview, you helped me to uncover what I really wanted to be when I grew up. And I have some really fun interview questions that are memorable for people, but it really helps figure out what really inspires you, what really drives you.
Okay, you can't hint at that and walk away. You got to give us one now. you got to give us one.
One of my favorites, and I'll just stay in this venue so that we can talk about it. If you were going to throw a party, what type of party would you like to throw, and how are you going to go about throwing it?
Awesome.
So why the question? I mean, literally,
everyone
remembers the question. They remember their answers, whether they're hired or not, that night. And, when they're all hanging out, they're like, what was that about? And what did you answer? And did the type of party matter? Not a bit. My goal was, can you see the big picture and pay attention to the details? That's all I wanted to know, because that's the kind of person I want on my team.
Yeah.
Someone who's going to keep their eye on the ultimate goal and be able to pay attention to all the multifaceted moving parts that all need to come together to reach that goal. So I got the craziest, funnest answers of nightclubs or birthday parties or family picnics or international, potluck dinners that are from all over the world. Crazy fun answers. But if I ask the question of, if you were in my department, how would you handle this scenario? They simply didn't know how our business worked.
Right.
And if I asked them about their previous business, I may not have all the innuendo. So take it into a venue that they're totally comfortable in, and let's play with it and have fun with it. It worked all but once. There was one person who said, I don't like parties and I don't like people very much. I said, okay, let's talk about accounting. Let's give you something where you can work with the Excel spreadsheets.
I think there's a red stapler in the basement somewhere.
Yeah, but it was fun. I mean, don't put her in a customer-facing role. She would be miserable, right?
Yeah.
So by telling me that, I wasn't telling her, no way. I was saying, let's find a position that's going to work for you where you don't have to interact with people that much. So the party question it worked really well. So there's one example of my unusual interview.
That gives so much insight into who that person is and how they think.
Right.
Which is great.
And everything else I can train. All I need is a little willingness and inspiration.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Now we've got this fellow who's reached out to me saying, thank you, because in the interview, you helped me decide what I wanted to be, and you hired me anyway. And then you helped me gain all of the skills I needed to actually get the job I wanted. And there were actually some personal things that he shared with me that I helped him through as well. I literally don't really remember that. So it happened in a very professional forum. So yay. And he said, now I'm married, I have a daughter, and I have my dream job. Do you want to know what his dream job is? You're not going to guess it.
I won't. No.
He's the principal of a junior high.
That's awesome.
That's what he always wanted to be.
That's rad.
And working in a medical publishing company gave him, under my tutelage, gave him all the skills to get there. That's
man. If you guys are watching this live, let us know that what you like about this story. Let us know you're here. Let us know if you got questions. If you're listening to this on replay, make sure you drop some comments in here. But there's so much goodwill in that story to unpack. I mean, there's a philosophy that you're talking about that's embedded in that suggests that people matter, people come first, their dreams matter all the time, and the fact that they get to work for you is a privilege, and you treat them with respect and know that you're not going to work with them forever. They're never going to, I mean, in many cases, they don't want to be in the same place forever. People want to move. They're transient, especially today. So the fact that you get this window of time together to leave them better than when you started is the point.
Exactly. So that actually really beautifully segues to how this story rolled, because here we have this in San Francisco, we had this incredible team of people who were so proud of what they had built. And we actually became the font of information, because in like product development, they were wondering, how do I get feedback from the customers? I'm like, by the way, I talk to the customers all day long. Give me a question. I will have an answer for you in 1 hour. So I mean, why not use this incredible font?
I love your mentality on the customer facing side, because it's so true. It's like, just go talk to them. Like, just go ask them the question. Don't tell you the answer.
They'll tell you what they need and what works and what doesn't. It's so gorgeous. And I'm already engaged with them. Okay, so here's what happened. I have this incredibly proud team who can't wait to get up in the morning and get to work and make a difference. And I have to lay every single one of them off. And they don't believe me at first. They were like, whatever you're telling us, it has to be other people because we've created something really valuable here. And they did. So I had to explain to them that yes, and I'm going to help springboard you to your next career. In exchange, can you please stick around and make sure that the quality that you have brought us to is consistent with the new team that I'm about to recruit, hire, and train on the other side of the country.
Mm-hmm.
So I was back and forth across the country when that was an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And I did. And here was the magic in the interviews I had on the East Coast on this new team. So this isn't a team that I walked into and identified skills and then helped chisel them and grow them in that way. This was a team of people who I could figure out their learning styles before I hired them. I could, figure out what do you want to, really grow into. And that's what's going to be the magic here. Mm-hmm. And we could establish the corporate culture from the get-go of what is accepted way of doing business and what's the etiquette, what's the culture. Mm-hmm. And boy, these people rose to the occasion. And during those interviews, I said to every single person right into their eyes, you're hired. And I'm going to gift you my body of knowledge because mine with yours is going to make you better, stronger, faster, smarter, more flexible and adaptable than I alone could ever be.
Yeah.
So those people are now, they didn't believe me because who does that?
Well, that's
but now, right.
They're expecting the go do this, do what you're told, and go hit all those numbers. A little
more coercive. That's not how I get power.
No. But, no, you're delivering leadership is authentic. It's community based.
Yep.
It builds culture, healthy culture. Mm-hmm. So I love what you're saying.
So here's what I said to these people. You're going to be more adaptable, better, stronger, faster than me because I'm planning on continuing to grow into a new direction. And again, they didn't believe me, but those people in a very short time, they've all gone into management tracks. They're all at director level. Some of them are senior director and 2 of them have businesses of their own now. So it's like, why not? Yeah. I want, you were saying, leave them better than when you found them, because these are the people who are going to continue to build our future and our culture and our world. We want this. Yeah. We want this. So that's how we transitioned the business with zero disruption in service to customers. Mm. And one of the best compliments professionally I've ever gotten, I heard from other people because it was behind closed doors. And it was the CEO of the company saying, just because Michelle made it look easy doesn't mean it was. It's true. But I had really good support.
Yep. Well, I mean, it is your gift. It's clearly a gift of yours. Not everyone has that as naturally as you. And that's okay though, because your gift is to help people learn that and to and you model it so well, which is great. That's why you're doing what you're doing now.
That's right. This is what I'm doing now. But there was a moment of time where I had to shift a little bit. So now what I'm doing is I am the magnet for other companies providing management consulting. So, and I'm sharing these corporate secrets to attract talent and find the talent within the teams that you have now to accelerate these winning teams and, set this new management blueprint in the changing world that we have today. And I actually have a new book coming out June 6th. And I'm happy to share that with any of you, and I'll tell you how to get there. Awesome. But here was one of the obstacles that I faced that brought me to today. And you had alluded to this earlier, because here I am, I'm on the top of my game. Somebody asked me, how are you? And I'm like, I'm better than I've ever been. This is it. I know when life is good. And I had it going on. I had a very incredible relationship with my husband. I had the 2.5 children, the 0.5 being the dog, of course. And we were living on the East Coast with this, incredible new team I had built. I had grown and built strategic alliances with the nonprofits like the American Heart Association, American Red Cross, American Lung Association. I mean, it was just like anything I dreamt up, and I'd be like, I have an idea. And they'd be like, yes, what's your new idea? We know it's going to win. And we ended up moving back to the West Coast, and my husband died. And that really does change things. Mm-hmm. It really does. So I would consider this a major life role change.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do I do now? Do I step back into what I was doing? Here on the West Coast, I was doing management consulting. I had some incredible clients. I was working at Stanford, and I was working with the big hospitals systems here, Stanford Lucile Packard Children's Hospital, MD Anderson. So, there was one company who I said, it's really hard to do business with you. And it took this woman a year to call me and go, can you help me with that? And I said, yeah, I'd be happy to. What triggered this phone call? She says, I have really high turnover in my staff. And I said, okay. And I said, I'll do this, but let's just for fun figure out how much it costs you to wait a year, because companies do wait until they're in a crisis before they call.
All the time.
So I figured it out really easily. And there was all we had to do was streamline some processes. I actually took a ball of yarn during a workshop, and I handed it to the owner of the company, and I let her throw it to everyone in her business who touches the prospect before the prospect becomes a client.
Ooh, I bet that's fun.
The yarn was everywhere. And I said, I know you hired me to reduce turnover, but can you see how hard it is to do business with you?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, yeah. So guess what? We streamlined the way that they do business, and then the employees were much happier being there. Voila. So that was a simple way of doing that. But so I'm so excited to be working with these customers and these businesses, and my husband dies, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then I realized, I do know what to do. I'm going to use the same skills to project manage and prioritize different aspects of our lives and pull our lives together. And then a friend of mine that I used to go running with went out for a run, had a heart attack, and died. And again, I thought, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Yes, in fact, I do know what to do. And I can't not do it. I have to do it. Mm-hmm. So I went to his widow and said, this is never going to be okay. I'm going to hold your hand and walk this journey with you. Let's project manage this thing. And of course, all the mourners in the living room were like, whew, someone who knows what they're doing is taking the lead. And it's the same thing in management. Show up, maintain your alpha status, realize what you can do.
Yep.
Understand the importance of attitude in everything that you're doing, and move from there with good communication skills and listening skills, using your body language, all of this. It's all the same. So I applied all of that, and she's amazing. She and the kids are amazing. But what happened was everyone started to send me out to other people. Can you help them? Can you help them? Can you help them? And so what I decided to do was write a book with all of those tools. And that's where I started to become an author. Life Worth Living, a practical and compassionate guide to navigating widowhood and soul parenting, became an international bestseller. And if the tools in the book were not enough, I was helping people pull life together after loss, figure out how to parent alone and have dreams of their own. Awesome. It was all the same skills.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've built my business again with this new book coming out. If anyone would like a copy of this book, I'd be happy to share this one by going to yourlifeworthliving.org. And if you're on my list, I will also be happy to send you a copy of my new book. So I don't know where we put that link here. We can put it below.
Well, yeah, at the end of the show, feel free to come and drop that link in the chat. What's the title of your new book?
That is still a little bit of a secret.
Okay,
I have alluded to it. I've alluded to it during this conversation. If you were listening, you would have heard it. So it's going to be, again, another big reveal. But it does have something to do with the corporate secrets of attracting talent and accelerating winning teams. So here's what happened, because now here I'm doing this, and it's a lot of the same stuff. Like, how do you get up in the morning and figure out what you can do when you feel like you can't do anything?
Mm-hmm.
And you take that one first step.
Right.
And then how do you create a vision that's in alignment with your authentic value system? Just like I was saying earlier about figuring out the talents that you have on your team and aligning them with the mission and vision of the business. How do you figure out your values and the values that everybody brings with them in the family, if you're at work, in your corporate team? And how do you make sure that those represent the culture that you're establishing?
Mm-hmm.
Once you know your target, it's very easy to make decisions, because that opens up the path and it lights it. For example, my value system, I value my children the most. Their education is one of my greatest values. So all of my decisions are easily made on what's in the best interest of educating my children.
Mm-hmm.
And any resource or energy that I put towards something that's not in that direction, there's going to have to be a good reason for it.
Right.
So that's really good decision making. Same thing in corporate America. Then one of my big tip secrets is building an inspirational advisory board. Mm-hmm. Just like a company has a board of directors, why don't you? So with an advisory board, and it became really apparent when I'd lost the one person who I went to for most things,
mm-hmm.
I needed to rebuild my advisory board. I needed an IT guy, that was for sure, because he was an expert at that.
Uh-huh.
But there's other things. It was like, where were the vulnerabilities? How do I stretch my strengths and strengthen my weaknesses for proper balance in my portfolio of what I'm trying to achieve? So easy examples. I know a lot about a lot of things, but I don't know a lot about the mechanics of my car. So I don't know about all of you. Maybe you do. There's some basics I can do, probably more than a lot of people actually, and you probably do too. But when there's a big issue, I bring it into the mechanic who I trust. And I'm going to let the mechanic take care of that.
Right.
So the mechanic in this case is a subject matter expert.
Mm-hmm.
So is a wealth advisor. So is a healthcare professional.
Mm-hmm.
That when it's out of your scope of knowledge, find the person who has that skill and strength and bring them in for that assignment.
Yep.
Another key subtlety to that's sort of a super ninja skill is knowing when you've gone outside their zone of genius. So I say you can't get milk from the Comcast guy. You got to ask the right questions of the right people and know when you push too far. So
and be careful listening to advice from the wrong person that doesn't have that expertise. Right.
So I call it doing the right thing right, and at the right time is good too. Figuring the differences out. So building that inspirational advisory board, because when you lose someone close to you, people recalibrate their relationships with you. When you change jobs, it's any life role change. If you change jobs, if you've changed homes, if you've changed communities, if your kids or if you're welcoming kids in, or if you're an empty nester. It's what do you do as you have these new identities? And the whole world has recently just gone through a major life role change.
Huge.
So it's time to reevaluate what are your priorities, and where are you going to spend your time and energy, professionally and personally.
Yeah. This has been a hot topic, and one of the things just today, just in the last several conversations in the last 24 hours, but it's going to be interesting to see what people do in the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months with this, when things are normal.
The new normal. Right.
Because I think everyone has had the chance to reset fully for the first time, maybe in decades.
Yep.
And to see what that's like. I mean, I say it every day, but I saw it again today, and I love it. I love seeing it. I love seeing dads in the front lawn playing ball with their kid. Because
their priorities have changed.
Yes.
And the world is never going to be the same. And really, are you going to lead, follow, or get out of the way?
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 categories.
Yep.
And really, it's like, so this dad playing in the front yard with his kid is realizing what is actually important. And he could have missed that opportunity had he not had, if the whole world was told, go to your room and figure it out, what's important to you.
Right.
And it's the same as it's the same words I was saying to my friend's widow. This is never going to be okay, or it's never going to be the same. Let's project manage this thing and prioritize where our value systems are. And our kids today, the ones that we've been forced to say, get off your screens, they're now, and I always thought, one day are they just going to close their screen and suddenly be like, I need a job? I'm like, no, they're going to take their screens with them.
Yeah.
And what I got a little bit, I didn't have that picture quite clear, couldn't have, is that they're actually going to be working and living through their screens as we are right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it gives this virtual connection and communication gives content, but it doesn't give context enough. Mm-hmm. So that's where bringing someone in who can actually support people in a way organically that gives them an opportunity to figure out what makes them blossom and grow, that you're not getting these organic interactions that happen in the workplace.
Yeah.
How do you create those
mm-hmm.
when we're working from home with the distractions of, our partners, our kids that we're now homeschooling, which...
A really good question.
There's so many distractions. And so this is what I'm answering with my new business. Okay. Because I know how to provide that support mm-hmm. so that everyone feels like they're part of something. And it's not, what are some of the things I've heard? I feel like I'm sitting in the dark chasing numbers, one fella said. And another woman was like, I have a question to ask my manager, but I don't want to interrupt a whole formal virtual meeting to ask this little question, but it would really be great to get that confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
So when she made the call and asked the question, her manager was like, really? You stopped what I was doing to ask that? Why don't you go ask your peers? And so what happened was she kind of got shut down. And when she asked her peers, then, they were like, oh my God, we didn't know that either. So there's a lot of organic communications that aren't necessarily project related that come up that aren't happening now.
Yeah.
And so creating those sidebar conversations are vital. They're mm-hmm. really vital.
Yeah. You're nailing it. You're nailing it. I mean, for your skill set and what you're doing right now, it's so needed. And that communication and establishing just the same thing, establishing those processes, those clear channels. So it's not frustrating to work every day where it's annoying because it's broken.
Right. It's not, we can't consider it broken.
Right.
It's a new way of doing business.
Right. No, I mean, like, even these channels now, it's like we got to get it streamlined. We got to figure out how to establish a new culture with this and this dynamic,
Right.
and make it work where
Right.
everyone, it's conducive. Everyone feels good. So, Christopher,
And
thanks for
everyone,
the comments, by the way.
yeah, that was real awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you, everybody. Bring them on. We want to hear. How can I help you?
that's right.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the questions I got asked was, well, how do I build a winning team of winners?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, 6 simple steps. Be the alpha. And as you were saying, create a trusting environment. How do you do that? You create an environment where people can ask questions and feel safe with their answers and know that whatever is asked is going to be really heard. So do you listen when you hear? Do you really listen to what's behind the question or what's behind the suggestion, or how did they come to that? Because that's going to uncover something also. How do you become a strong facilitator so that a meeting is not only efficient and effective, but everyone's voice can be heard. The questions are answered so that there's nothing left unsaid, because like we talked about, you can't just nudge your friend and go, did you get that? What? So there's a new way of facilitating meetings to make sure that everyone's in an understanding agreement that we're all on the same page still.
Yeah.
The communication skills are different now. A lot of what we actually send in our messaging is not just the words that we choose, but it's our voice, our inflection, our tone, our speed. And of course, most of it is body language.
Mm-hmm.
And we're cut off. We're cut off, and now you can see the order, right?
That's all you get. Shoulder up. Yeah.
I don't know. Are your like knees knocking? Are you really nervous? Are you whatever's going on from the screen down? You know, whatever, all the stories there. But also the ability to manage up and be a supportive subordinate. You know, what can I do to help you succeed is a question I ask almost everyone everywhere I go. And knowing that, understanding how your manager works and working within that style and seeing opportunity to help your manager succeed is going to make you an ideal employee. And you can role model that for your team. And managing across the same way, as I talked about, you know, once I understood what the product development team really needed, I knew how to really access an incredibly valuable resource. Mm-hmm. Once I understood that sales wanted to make more revenue, I knew how to do it in my department. Yeah. And that can happen in any department in the organization. So managing up and across. And then career setting to show authentic value for the employees who are coming to work each day and giving them a reason, figuring out what is it that's bringing you here more than the salary, because that's only one aspect.
Yeah.
And inspiring all of that with these shared goals of success really makes the difference.
This we could talk for probably 3 hours at least with this content. It's so good. No, it really is. One thing I wanted to point out in what you just said that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, and you hit on it a couple of times in this interview today, is turning your assets that aren't necessarily creating revenue into revenue generating machines that you need right now for your business to get out of this thing and to survive and grow. And you gave some great examples in this dialogue about how to do that. And I think that was phenomenal. And I hope people that listen to this, if you're running a business and you have a team, this was incredible wisdom and advice today. If you're an employee working for a boss, Michelle just gave you some invaluable tips on how to really change the game for yourself and your boss to make you both win, right? Which is actually possible, and the culture piece. So I mean, man, we might need to get you back for part 2 of this, because there's so much there. But as no one could have predicted and wrote the script for what we've seen so far this year. It's
That's for
insane.
sure.
But with what we think we could maybe foresee for the next 6 months of the rest of 2020, where do you want to be by the end of the year?
I missed something that you said. Where do you think we'll be by the end of the year?
Where do you want to be with your business by the end?
Where do I want to be?
Yes.
Okay, so those are two different things. By the end of the year, I'd really, really love to have the opportunity to help businesses figure out how to stabilize their management teams in a way. I mean, so remember I was saying earlier, the trigger to this woman was I'm having high turnover in my business. When I had told her a year prior, it's really hard to do business with you. It's not the employees.
Right.
But it's really simple fix. If you let me come in and you trust me enough to talk to your employees and figure out what do you do and how are you doing it and what works and what doesn't and what do you value and what do you think we could improve upon, and to trust me with something like that, and then to actually make the difference so that we can demonstrably prove the return on investment of increased customer satisfaction, of employee retention, of streamlining your processes. And then, okay, let's highlight the biggest one, increasing revenue because the departments add value somehow, even if, if we're really just going to decrease the expense of that business and of that business unit, and increasing the value that each department and each individual brings as they come to work each day, and then how they're compensated for that. One of the things I was surprised about is the way that people feel recognized is not always the way that businesses recognize them. And sometimes it's a lot less expensive on the budget.
Yeah.
But it's so much bigger because that's where people can't wait to be part of something bigger than themselves. They're proud to wear the logo of the company they're representing, and they're actually going to be the best people to represent your organization in that way. So by the end of the year, I'd love to have an incredible portfolio of businesses who I can make a difference for. So how can I help you succeed? That's what
I love it. Well, first of all, make sure that you drop, I think you did at the beginning, make sure you drop your link to where people can find you, because this was phenomenal. This was great content. Great. Seriously, thanks so much for sharing this tonight, Michelle. And I do hope in 6 months that you can gladly say that you crushed those goals, and we can do another talk then.
Sure.
But yeah, guys, share this out on your channels. This content, I mean, we're on LinkedIn every day. We're on Facebook. I don't hear content like this a lot, and this is fantastic. So share this out. Make sure if you have follow-up questions to reach me or Michelle. I'd be happy to get any questions to Michelle afterwards. But yeah, we have a lot to talk about after this.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, but this was great. So any last nuggets that you want to share with the audience on things they can be thinking about right now as they navigate their business through this?
Okay, as you're navigating your business through this,
COVID-19
is a pandemic scenario.
Almost June.
In a changing world right now. So I'm working with a client who had to, in 3 days, do the logistics to deploy 1,000 employees to work from home. And those employees are freaking out because they actually, there was a lot of things that happened when they commuted into, now we all miss a commute, commuted into work, and they weren't distracted by the kids, the cute dog who wants a walk, and the partners in the living room that's now a gym and an entertainment center. And they're missing the organic connections that were happening. So the big things that are happening is people are working from their homes, and they have been totally isolated from everything except for the most important job functions. And we are losing momentum to meet quotas, to meet the annual revenue goals. There's one company, they increased the quota by 70% on the 22nd of the month. Well, how are these people going to make their compensation packages? How are they going to make their bonuses when those were not adjusted with it? And there's just, it's for them, it's totally depressing because that seems unattainable.
Right.
So the big wins are going to be to make sure to give them the extra time and attention. And I know the senior management team does not have it. They're trying to figure out the big picture stuff, which is why you invite someone like me in to say, what's really bugging you at home? And how do we clear that so that you are free in your head? It's just the neuroscience of it, so that you can actually increase your momentum and ensure that everyone's aligned with what needs to get done by when, and it feels fun doing it, and that we're bonded together as a result of going through this together instead of feeling isolated, alone, and lonely.
Yep.
If I had to choose only one thing, that would be it, because being isolated and alone is going to prevent them from doing a really good job when they're used to working as part of a team.
Nailed it.
If I only had to choose one, that's what I would choose.
It's a great nugget, Michelle. That's all the time we have for today, guys. Michelle, thank you so much for jumping on Ascend. We are cheering you on because people need you for sure. And we can't wait to hear all about your success. So congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
And go crush it.
I will. I'll tell you what, I will put a link into this site for yourlifeworthliving.org, and you can actually just click on the email and email me directly there. Or if you really want to just put time on my calendar, I have freed up some spaces. So you can scroll down on one side and just go, I need your help right now. Then you could pick a time.
Perfect.
And I will help you succeed. I'm here for you.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Michelle. God bless you.
Thank you.
Night. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Big love.